All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David, and today you are here at our free training for the Ivy League Admission Secrets, okay, which is part of College Admission Secrets, okay. So as we're kind of getting started here, we've had a huge influx of new families into our Facebook group and into our various groups. So I wanted to make sure that we gave a little bit of background about the people that will be hosting Ivy League admission secrets and the trainings every week. Okay. So first off, let me introduce myself a little bit. So my name's Coach David. Hello out there in Zoom world. Hello out there in Facebook world. Okay. Now I come from a background that some people don't expect, right? So I went to the Claremont colleges for a double major in political science and Asian studies. And then I actually went off to law school. So I was a former lawyer. I actually worked at large law firms and I worked at Samsung in South Korea. And I also worked during my time at the Claremont colleges and at the law school as an admissions reader as part of a diversity coalition. Okay. This is now my 15th year of college admissions. I am also the lead in our financial aid secrets group as well, right? And we've saved families a lot of money, okay? Over the past 14 years, I've been able to save families well over $4 million. And as far as kind of my results with students, even just this year, we have multiple students in at, Ivy Plus schools, Ivy League schools, and I've had students go to every single Ivy League and also the Ivy Plus schools. Okay. And we're here because we want to help you succeed. Okay. So again, any questions that you guys have, please feel free to, ask those later during the presentation. And also the other host of Ivy League Admission Secrets is Coach Tony, right? You guys might have seen him in our UC Admission Secret group. So we have multiple different groups focusing on multiple different areas of college admissions. Okay, but he is the founder of College Admission Secrets, right? He's our fearless leader, right? He went to UC Berkeley and was also a UC Berkeley reader, admissions reader. He and Coach Tony also founded his own high school. Was a big sensation on social media being TikTok's college admissions educational partner. And he's also worked at one of the largest kind of test prep companies in the United States, Magoosh Test Prep. Okay. And he has also been doing this for about 15 years as well. Okay. So that is a little bit about us. Let me tell you a little bit about our cadence. Okay. And kind of what we've been able to do over the past, 15 years of college admissions. So we've been able to help students get in literally everywhere, right? Just this year, we had students go to Rice, Emory, Brown, Columbia, Caltech, right? UCs across the board. The only one that we're currently waiting on right now is UC Berkeley, right? So we've had so many success stories. And like I said before, we've also had success at sending students to every single Ivy League school, okay? All 8 of them, right? With that, let me tell you what to expect from our group, right? So every Thursday at 6 o'clock, we're gonna go live, right? And we're gonna have a free training session. Okay. All we ask is that you guys stay on top of kind of our posts, right? Make sure that you're here, right? And then if we're giving things away or asking you guys some questions, we love to have an interactive experience with our members. Okay. We want to make sure that we have our families in here and that they're active and that, we're all learning from each other. Okay. So, if you just want to stop by, say hi to us, add us as a friend on Facebook. If you're already in one of our coaching programs, make sure to reach us in the Discord so that we can make sure to help you along your journey. Okay. All right. So let us continue. All right. So today is going to be about kind of the colleges and the factors that they look into. Okay. So I know who really takes notes nowadays. You could obviously screenshot, right? We will have a replay available. So just look out for that replay post. But take a look, just make sure that you're ready to absorb this information because there's a lot of information here. Okay. So today, we're going to be trying to decipher what it takes and what they look at when they're looking at when Ivy League schools are looking to accept a student. Okay. Now, for a long time, people have kind of kept this information hidden, right? But I don't think there's any reason to do that. So we're going to give away the information about what they're looking at, what they think is important, less important, right? So on and so forth, so that we can understand exactly what the situation is. Okay. So, let me kind of preface this with a little bit of a kind of qualification, right? Again, what are the factors? Well, the factors that I used and that, I gathered the data from, those are the ones that are kind of like very generally across the board, right? Now, for every individual student, there could be a million things that matter to an admissions officer when they're reading about a certain student, right? But I'm trying to make it as simple as possible so that people can understand, right? So first off, in order for you guys to understand, let me tell you what the factors are that I brought into this kind of situation. Okay. So first we're going to talk about academic factors, and then next we're going to talk about non-academic factors. Okay. So the academic factors that we're going to use to kind of understand what these Ivy League schools are looking at. The first one is rigor of school attendance. Okay. Next one is class rank. Third one is academic GPA. The fourth is standardized test scores. Fifth is application essays, and the sixth is the recommendations. Okay, so those are the academic things I'm going to be looking at. For the non-academic factors, we're going to be looking at the interview, your activities, if you have special talents or abilities, right? Your character or personal qualities, right? Whether or not you're a first generation college student, if you have alumni, if you're connected to alumni in any way, right? Your parents went there, your grandparents went there, your sister, brother went there, right? State residency, right? Religious affiliation, racial, ethnic background, your volunteer work, your work experience, and then your level of applicant interest, also noted as demonstrated interest in other places. Okay, so we'll kind of go through all of these at each of the schools that we're going to kind of go over, right? And of course, I wasn't able to do every single school, or else, obviously our training would run for super long. But I did a kind of nice grouping of kind of Ivy League schools, Ivy Plus schools, and also I threw in, just because obviously I'm from California, right? I know some of our families are too, right? Your family might be from somewhere else, but because we have the highest ranked, public universities in the United States, I decided to put in UC Berkeley and UCLA as well. Okay. So just that's kind of what's coming down the line here. Okay. So before we kind of get into like the schools and exactly what they're looking at, one of the things that I wanted to like, there was a couple factors that I wanted to explain to families because, right, drum roll, in 2023, people might know and might not know, but there was like a huge kind of Supreme Court ruling, right? And it said that colleges are no longer allowed to use race as a factor in college admissions. Okay. So what does that mean, and kind of like what kind of what effect does that have? So for the Ivy League schools, they did use race and a kind of ethnic background as a kind of as one of the kind of factors that they used in college admissions, because obviously there are, certain kind of racial and ethnic backgrounds that have been historically disadvantaged, and they wanted to make sure that they had a chance to come to college, right? But after the Supreme Court ruling, that is no longer the case, right? So the Supreme Court has ruled that race cannot be a factor, okay? But, right, what does that mean, right? So what this means in reality is this. The button that you click on your application can no longer be used as a factor in your admissions, right? But, and this is a huge but, right? But if you write about it in an essay or in an activity or in something else, colleges can take it into consideration. So while everyone believes that kind of this getting rid of affirmative action has actually kind of gotten rid of the race question in college admissions, unfortunately, it hasn't. Okay. So because there's other ways for them to infer kind of the racial or ethnic background of a certain student. So is it really gone? To a certain extent, right? Because the button you click doesn't matter anymore. But if you talk about it in your essays, in your activities, in other areas, they can still use that information to make a decision on your application. Okay. All right. And there is another thing that I wanted to kind of make sure that we talked about here. Okay. So alumni connection, also known in other circles as legacy. Okay. Now, every school is different, right? Some schools, it's just immediate family, right? Parents, grandparents, or siblings, right? Some schools, it includes extended family, cousins, uncles, aunts, right? Anyone else you can think of, right? But, right, this is often taken into account, but it is not a large factor, okay? Unless, and again, there's like qualifiers, right? Qualifiers in every piece of information I'm giving you, but it's taken into account to a certain extent. It's like, oh yeah, they're a Harvard family, a Penn family, a Princeton family, but it's usually not a large factor unless it has been in tandem with an extended history of giving to the institution. Now, I know I wrote that in a lot of words, but let me make it very simple for you. It only matters if you have a connection and there's been a lot of donations given to that school. Okay. Now, a lot of schools are moving away from this alumni connection or legacy situation. The reason is because there's a lot of different groups out there saying that it's very elitist, right? So a lot of schools are moving away from that. Okay. But let's say your family has, for generations has been going to a certain school and you guys have donated because you love your school. Sure, no problem, right? You definitely can put that on your application, right? But again, the amount of effect that it has is lessening year by year. Okay, so those are two of the factors that I wanted to explain, just because I feel like they are a little bit more of a hot topic. But here's like another one that I think is misunderstood by a lot of families. Okay, so applicant interest, also known as demonstrated interest, right? So a lot of people think like, oh, I'm gonna go visit a school, talk to an admissions officer. It's gonna give me a better chance of getting into a school. Okay. So a lot of families, it's a lot of time, effort, and money spent visiting these schools, setting up those meetings with those counselors. But I will tell you this, these counselors actually meet with thousands and thousands of students a year. It's very unlikely they're going to remember who you are, right? Or your particular story, right? So the demonstrated interest, and you'll actually see in the kind of graphics that I have later, that applicant interest at any of the schools I'm going over today does not play a factor at all, right? They don't take it into consideration, okay? Again, it's different in specific situations. If you're a sports star, right? You're the number one, baseball recruit in the country, right? Obviously, the admissions officers might know who you are, right? But again, in a normal circumstance, the applicant's kind of demonstrated interest, it does not play a factor. Okay. So let me now talk about the schools that we're going to talk about. Okay. The first one, Caltech, Johns Hopkins, Brown, Columbia, Yale, MIT, WashU, Princeton, Harvard, Berkeley, and LA. Okay. So those are the schools I'm gonna go over. Now, if there's other schools you guys are interested in, right? I'm sure you can, after our presentation, I'm sure a lot of you guys can kind of guess what the schools are looking for, right? But if you guys want more specifics, we can also do a follow-up with other schools as well. Okay. But let us jump straight into it so that I can give you guys the information. Now, I've tried to make this as pretty as possible. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, right? I don't know if I succeeded or not, but I have a key on every page, right? So the green is something that's considered very important. Yellow is important. Third, and then the third is considered and it's orange. And then if it's not considered at all, I just crossed it out. Okay. Now, this is based on last year's class, right? Now, obviously, this year there's a bunch of changes because there are schools that are returning to testing, all these different things, right? And again, there are kind of situations where it's a little bit different, but this is based on last year's because all of this year's results have not come out yet. Okay. So if we look at Caltech, the things that they think are the most important are the rigor of your secondary school schedule, right? So your high school schedule, your application, your recommendations, and your character and personality. That is what they are focused on. Okay. The next important are your class rank, if your school even gives it, right? Your academic GPA and your extracurriculars. And then after it is abilities, talents, if you're a first generation student, your racial or ethnic background. And again, that was before kind of affirmative action was abolished, right? So this, again, is from last year, volunteer work and work experience. Okay. So the things that are most important here, your rigor, your essays, your personality, which is going to come through in your essays, and is also going to come out in your recommendations when your teachers talk about you. Okay. So Caltech is more worried and more kind of focused on the person you are versus the accolades that you have. Okay. Now, not saying that you can be a slacker in your academics, right? But they do look beyond just your GPA, just beyond the classes that you've taken. Okay. All right, so let's move on, right? Johns Hopkins, right? So here, right? So Johns Hopkins, the highest and most important things are rigor, class rank, academic GPA, right? Application essays and recommendations, right? Next level, extracurriculars, abilities, character, personality, volunteer work, and work experience. Okay. And then the things that are considered are standardized test scores and that you are a first generation college student. Okay. So again, most colleges now, right, save a few, and there's more and more that are going back to test required. But with, obviously during COVID, a lot of schools became like test not required, test optional, right? So at certain schools, the weight of your standardized test scores means a lot less. Okay. So this is Johns Hopkins, right? Let's go to Brown, right? Now, Brown has a lot more things that they think are important: rigor, class rank, academic, essays, recommendations. Your special abilities or talents is something that Brown is a little bit different on, that they want to see and consider very important, and your character and personality. Everything else is something that is considered, but not of the highest importance. Okay. At Columbia, right? Rigor, class rank, GPA, essays, recommendations, extracurriculars, and character and personality, right? So I think you guys are starting to see a little bit of a trend, right? There are certain things that they all the colleges that think that are important, right? And then there are things that are kind of like, well, yeah, well, it's great to have them, but we'll consider it if you have it, but it's not that important, right? Now, one of those things right now in today's day and age is those standardized test scores, but that is slowly changing over time as more Ivy Leagues are going back to test required, so on and so forth. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving on. So Yale, right? So Yale, it's like we consider everything, right? Almost everything that is here, right? But obviously, again, we see that rigor, class rank, academic GPA are still, very important. That's kind of the baseline, right? And then your essays, recommendations, character, personality, those are things that go together as well, right? Your interview, right? Now, we have a lot of students that have interviews, that don't have interviews. It depends on the school, and it depends on the availability of interviewers from that school that year, right? And a lot of times it's alumni interviewers, right? So some years you'll have everyone get an interview. Some years you'll have no one get an interview. Okay, so it's just something to keep in mind. And you will see that on some of the schools, you'll see that state residency is actually a factor that they take into account. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, well, why does a private school care about where our school, like where the student comes from? Right? It doesn't matter if they're from Mars, as long as they're a good student, I'm sure they'll want them. That is true, right? And if we did have a student from Mars, I'm sure the Ivy Leagues would be fighting over that student. Okay. But the reason why they want variety is because one of the things that the Ivy Leagues love to do is brag about how far their reach is, right? So if they're able to say every year that we have students from all 50 states, it's a very big thing for them. So where you live does, to a certain extent, again, it's considered when they're looking at your application. Okay, now Stanford, right? An Ivy Plus school here, right? So again, here everything is important, right? It's kind of like rigor, rank, GPA, test scores, essays, recommendations, extracurriculars, abilities and talents, character, and personality. Those are all of the highest importance, right? And then the interview and other things come into play as well. Okay, so one of the things that I kind of have been saying is, like the essays are so important, but some people think that they're not, right? And so with that, one of the things I do want to do is kind of give you guys a quick word from our sponsors. Okay. So if you're a 2025 student, right, this is something that I want you to think about, right? or a 2025 family, class of 2025 family, if your student procrastinates, right, or if you feel like they have a difficulty writing and expressing themselves, not a history essay about themselves, right, then I have the solution for you, okay? And the solution is our college application intensive, okay? It will be running during the summer. It's a 2-day weekend event that will help your student complete their applications, okay? So if you are interested in this program, text weekend to 415-938-8721. Okay. Once again, weekend at 415-938-8721. I will have this information on our last slide as well. So if you miss it now, don't worry about it. But we have a lot of students that think that they're great writers, but they're not great college essay writers. We also have a lot of students that fear writing and don't know where to start and don't know kind of how to get going, right? This is the perfect solution for you, right? It helps your student get started, it helps them get through it, and it helps them get done. Okay. So now back to our original programming. So let's go to MIT, right? So for MIT, like if you actually look here, class rank they don't really care about, right? Well, I mean, one of the reasons they might not care about it is because a lot of the students that are applying are already in that kind of top 10% category at their high school, right? But rigor, GPA, essays, recommendations, and personality, these are things that are kind of consistent across the board, right? And one of the things that we talked about at one of our earlier kind of training sessions is that in your essays, you want to be someone that's likable, right? One of the things that these types of elite colleges are looking for is a student that has a likability factor. Okay. So they don't want stuck up kids. They don't want kids that are full of themselves. That's not what they want. They want someone that knows who they are, right? And is able to express that in their essays. Okay. Now, the other things that they consider important, because MIT is a school that requires the SAT, standardized test scores, extracurriculars, interviews, abilities, and talents, right? And then everything else is considered. All right. We have a real fun one coming up in a little bit, and I'll kind of like explain why it got categorized in that way. But let's move on to WashU St. Louis right now. So here again, same things are important, right? And again, they're all these top level schools, and so it's fair to say that that's why they are, because they're all looking for the same qualities, right? There are little differences in between, okay? But here, rigor, rank, GPA, test scores, application recommendations, abilities, and then character, those are the important ones, right? And then your extracurriculars, being a first generation student, your volunteer work experience, all the activities you've done, those are very important for them. And then you have your interview, alumni relation, and then racial or ethnic background. Okay. Princeton, right? Again, same ones are in green. Roughly the same ones are in orange, right? The ones that are crossed out are crossed out, right? So I think you're starting to get the trend here. The one kind of fun one is Harvard, right? This is how they categorize their application. Everything is considered. What does that mean? Everything is really important because there's no differentiation, right? So rigor or work experience, it's all considered. And so it's all at that same level. So literally everything is important here, right? That is what they're telling us. Okay. It's not that it's like, oh, well, we can be a little off on this and so they'll consider it. And we'll be a little off on this and they'll consider it. No, it's everything put together, right? And everything is going to be considered as a whole. And literally everything holds the same weight. Okay. And then to our kind of Ivies of the West Coast, right? So UC Berkeley, right? Now, UC Berkeley, what they consider rigor is very important. Academic GPA is important, right? And there's a separate UC calculation, right? Application essays are of utmost importance. I always tell people this, right? At the UCs, people think that the essays don't matter. They just look at your GPA. But why would they have us write 4 essays when they're already over, like, they're flooded with applications and it takes longer for them to read it if they didn't think the application essays were important. They do think that they are important. Okay. And then obviously your activities, right? Your character personality, which comes through your essays. And then more than other schools, right? Something that is considered is first generation and obviously state residency. Okay. So that's UC Berkeley. Now at UCLA, right? At UCLA, one of the pieces that's different is that UC Berkeley actually is the only school that we know of so far, right? Again, things might change this year. We haven't seen any changes, right? But it's the only school that asks for recommendation letters. UCLA does not ask for additional letters of recommendation. So that part is crossed out. It is about rigor. It is about GPA, it is about application essays, and then your activities, state residency, and your status as a first generation student. Okay. All right. So I said a lot of the same words over and over again. Let me just take a breath, right? And so let's talk about what the themes and the trends are here. Okay. So academics across the board is a common theme. So strong academics are key, right? But if you also look, one of the things that schools are looking for is also something beyond just academics. What extracurriculars have they done? What talents do you have? Right. And the biggest thing that I just talked about a little while ago is they want good kids, right? I put it in quotes, right? But I don't know what the definition of a good kid is, but that's kind of what they're looking for, right? All of them consider the student's personal qualities and character in their determination. So I'm talking about that likability factor. Okay. So those are some of the trends there, right? Now, what does this mean for families? Right? So these are the parts that you need to focus on, right? So, and again, where do you do that, right? And so the different parts that we were talking about was your academics, right? Your activities, right? Your personal character. Those are the places where they were looking heavily, right? So where do you do that? You do it through what you do, right? Because we could think all the good thoughts that we want, but it doesn't show up anywhere, right? So in your essay, if you're saying like, I'm a caring person, right? Show us, what have you done? Right? If you say you're thoughtful, what have you done? Right? If you're saying you're passionate about something, how have you shown that? Right? Now, these all come through the essays, which every school has in their very important category, right? So the essays are ever more important because it's not just about writing a solid, grammatically correct essay. It's about showing who you are through your essay, which is something that we really push at, here at, College Admission Secrets. One of the big things we always ask students is they write an essay, they bring it to us, and I'm like, you didn't tell me why, right? And that is the key point here, right? It's why you did something, why you took a certain action, why you took a certain class, why you did research, why you did whatever it is, right? We need to understand your mind, or else you're just someone that did things. Okay. So, and that's why essays have become that much more important in the college admissions process. Okay. So please, 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 for students, right? If you guys are here, make sure you're starting early on your essays and starting from that, like that very organic brainstorming kind of process, right? Don't jump into the essays. Don't try to answer a certain question. Start brainstorming first. Okay. Now, let's talk about some takeaways, right? So the takeaways from this kind of the data that we've gotten and the kind of graphics that we've seen here. So the colleges are looking for the it student. And what I mean by that, like they're looking for someone that has it all. Okay. The student who embodies what they believe in is a consummate student, right? That's what we want, right? So grades, it needs to be a check mark. Activities, it needs to be a check mark. Passions and interests needs to be a check mark, right? So it's not necessarily enough to focus just in one area, right? So I have plenty of students that come to our program. They're like, "Yeah, I've taken 12 APs. Yeah, I'm the boss, right?" But it's like, okay, so what else have you done? It's like, oh no, I just study. And it's like, we have a problem, right? Because the school you're looking to get into is an Ivy League school, but if you've done nothing else, unfortunately, you're not the student they're looking for, right? So what you need to focus on is using your time efficiently to make sure that you can wow the readers in the different aspects that they're looking for. Okay. Again, I'll reiterate this, right? It is not one area. Rigor is not going to do it for you, right? Just having a bunch of activities is not going to do it for you, right? We need to make sure that we're strong across the board. Okay. All right. So that was a lot of talking during a short period of time, a lot of slides, right? So we are actually going to transition to a little bit of a Q&A. Okay. So if you guys do have questions or things you guys want more clarification on, please put them in the Facebook chat, in the Q&A, in the chat in Zoom, so I can answer them for you. Okay. Now, I will say again, If your student is lagging, or if they have a history of kind of lagging behind, make sure you text us weekend to 415-938-8721. We'll help you get done. Okay. They'll give you some information. If you feel like it's the right thing for you and your family, you guys can go ahead and sign up. Okay. But first, get the information, see how you guys feel. Okay. So we will switch over to that. And also, just to make sure that our families have the ability to speak with us if they want to, I'm also going to put a link to our student assessment call into the chat here in Zoom. I will also put it in Facebook as well. Okay, so posted both there, right? So the assessment call is very simple. It's a 15-minute call. We'll tell you kind of, we'll learn a little bit more about your family, about your student. We'll give you some suggestions. And then if you feel like you want to kind of learn more about our programs, we can set up another call afterwards, right? During that kind of assessment call, like you can't buy anything, right? So, and we're not going to let you buy anything. So you can come, it's no obligation, talk to us, get a feel for us and kind of our passion for helping students achieve their goals, right? And then we can talk about services in a later call. Okay. All right, so we will go on to question time now. So go ahead, put your questions in the Facebook, in the Q&A, in the chat. I will start answering them. So I had something in the Q&A earlier and it said, would love to know about Dartmouth. Sure, I'll go ahead and, at a later training session, I'll try to do the rest of the Ivy League schools and some other schools as well so that you guys can get some more information. Okay. And then we have a question here and it says, if race is no longer relevant, do you encourage students to talk about their backgrounds on their essays? So this, yes and no. Okay. So race is not something that can be flagrantly used from the kind of buttons that you click on your application. Now, for those that have been through applications before, you'll know that there's like a race and ethnicity section that says, oh, what race are you? And then pick whatever's closest to whatever you are, like your racial background is, right? Or pick multiple, right? Now, they're not able to use that anymore. So without that information, everyone is just multicolored. Everyone's a rainbow now, right? But if you do talk about your racial background in your essays, they will know. And then technically speaking, they can use that to either kind of like give you bonus points or not give you bonus points. So it depends on your student situation, but I do think that is worth talking about as far as like, should that be a subject we bring up? Should it not be? But for a lot of students, their culture, their racial background, those things are something that are very important to them. Like, especially, I have students that have done, cultural dance for 15 years, right? And I've had students that have learned, their native language, since they were born, right? And then, they've been translators for people, right? So it depends on how it has affected your life. But if there is a large effect on your life, then yes, you should talk about it, right? But if it hasn't, there's no real point to kind of talking about it unless there is a reason to. Okay. All right. And then we have a question here and it says, what is meant by first generation? So first generation, right? And again, there's a technical and there's a what is it actually supposed to mean? So technically speaking, the term first generation means the first generation of your family to go to college in the United States. Okay. Now, on a more like broader level, what is it supposed to mean? It's supposed to mean, are you the first person to going to college in your family, right? Now, that's a little bit different because obviously America is made up of immigrants, right? My parents were immigrants as well, right? They didn't go to college here. I was technically first generation, right? But my parents had gone to college in their home country, right? So it depends on how you interpret it, but it can mean the first in your family to go to college or the first in your family to go to college in the United States, right? So you have to look carefully at what the question is asking. Okay. All right. And then we have a question from Facebook. It says, how hard is it to get into any UCs from out of state? So I will say this, the minimum requirements for students from out of state is higher than the requirements for California residents to get into a UC. So the minimum requirements for a UC for a California resident, I believe it's 3.0, right? Now, that's not saying that you're necessarily going to get in. That just means you're qualified to apply, right? For a out-of-state student, I believe it's a 3.4, right? But can you get in? Yeah, of course you can. I've had students from basically all over the world go to UCs, right? So whether you're in New York or Singapore or Hong Kong, you can go to a UC, right? You just have to be, again, that strong of a student. Okay. All right. So we have a question here. It says, I registered for the college application intensive, but don't remember which session I signed up for. How would I check that? So if you are one of our current coaching families, you can ask us in the support channels or in your private channel, right? If you're not one of our families and you are not one of our coaching families, but you just sign up for the weekend, go ahead and text that number there, 415-938-8721. And then you can ask them, like, can I get some more information on that? Okay. So again, if you're a part of our coaching families and you want to make sure that you sign up for the right date, go ahead and contact us in our Discord, right? Private channel or support channels. If you're not one of our current coaching families and just sign up for the weekend, use the 415-938-8721 to get some more information. Okay. All right, we have another question here. It says, for rigor, what are the criteria that the college evaluates? So rigor can be seen like on a lot of different scales, but let me tell you what rigor means to me, right? It means that the student took the hardest classes that were available to them at their high school, right? And then, especially for the Ivy League students, Ivy League kind of bound students and beyond, okay? Now, what does that mean? So in ninth grade, when they had an option between regular English 9 and English 9 honors, they took English 9 honors, right? In 10th grade, when they had the option between chem and honors chem, they took honors chem, right? When they had the choice to skip a math class from pre-calculus to Calc BC, they took that leap, right? So it is that you went as far as you could with the opportunities that you had at school, right? But just going to your high school classes, especially for our Ivy League bound students, it's not enough, right? So that's why we are such big proponents of rigor. And where can you find that? Other online high schools, community college, right? There are numerous classes you can take depending on kind of your ability to fit everything into your schedule. Okay. But those are the things that college are looking at. Did they go above and beyond what their school offered? Right. So if your school only has until Calc AB, but you did all the way until linear algebra, right? They're going to take that into account. Be like, oh, this student went above and beyond, right? Same thing for all those other classes, right? So that's what they look at when they're talking about rigor. Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns, things I can help you guys with? All right. I don't see any other questions. Maybe people are typing. I'll give them a minute to do that. I'll just explain things like kind of one more time here. So again, if you want to sign up for a consultation or a assessment with College Admission Secrets to see how we can help you, go ahead and use this link in the Zoom chat here or in the Facebook chat here so that we can talk to you and kind of give you some suggestions and kind of tell you, are you on the right pathway? Right. And if you're interested in our college application intensive, please text weekend to 415-938-8721. Okay. Here we have another question, and we'll kind of make this our last one because we do need, I do need to rush off to another meeting. But it is, what kind of volunteer work can high school students do that high school students can do are being looked at by these colleges. So I think a lot of people think that volunteer work is something very difficult. But volunteer work is when you're doing anything that is not for your own benefit. Okay. So like I'm going to make a very extreme example. If you're walking down the street and you see a piece of trash and you pick it up and you put it in the trash can, that's technically volunteer work. So it's not something that is is something so dense and complicated, right? But for our students, our coaching students, one of the things that we really push is that it makes a lot of sense, especially if you start early with us, to work on a personal project, right? Your personal project at the end of the day is something that helps your community or a community, right? Because you can define the community that you want to help, right? So by building that out from something the student is really interested in, right? That is something that we are pushing and making, an impact in the community, and that can be your volunteer work, right? One of the things that, and we just had an interview with a senior this year that is ending up at Emory. Okay. She came on and she talked about, a lot of different things and the passion projects that she did. And we helped her create her passion project, right? And what she did was create an opportunity for like young kids, right, to kind of get that entrepreneurial spirit by doing a Shark Tank-like project with them over the course of the summer. Okay. And then obviously, it happened in iterations after that as well. But again, that was something that the student was already interested in, right? And they were able to kind of continue showing their passions in different areas through their personal project. Okay. So you might be in 10th grade, you might be in 9th grade, you might be in 6th grade, right? But it's never too early to start a passion project, right? Now, for our current juniors, there's still things that you can do, right? But we need to be focused and understand exactly how much time we have and how much effort we can expend to figure out what the best opportunities for volunteer work or other kind of activities are in your particular situation. So if that is you, make sure to book an assessment so that we can make sure to give you those answers. Okay. All right, so that was kind of our last question. Thank you guys for spending some time with me tonight. We do this every week, Thursday at 6 o'clock. If you do have questions, please reach out in the Discord or Facebook. All of us are there. You can send us a quick message and we respond pretty quickly. And then finally, please, I have families that say, oh, like, later on kind of during the summer, oh, do you have any spots left at your college application intensive? And I have to turn them away and I say, sorry, no, we just don't have any spots left. So if you think this is something that you're going to need, at least have the information in front of you. Try to do it as soon as possible. So text that weekend to 415-938-8721. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So I will see you guys again in 2 weeks. Coach Tony will be here next week. And then if you guys have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out. Okay. Everyone have a great night. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.